For 8 years. I let my husband hold me after every failed treatment and tell me we were suffering together. Then I saw him cradling newborn twins beside my sister, smiling like the family I had begged for had belonged to her. He didn't confess. She didn't apologize. So I said nothing. I met with a lawyer, protected what was mine, and signed the divorce papers before either of them knew I had found out. But when he carried those babies into his mother's house, she went white and whispered, "Wait, she didn't tell you." That was when his perfect new life began to collapse. My name is Morgan Carter. I was 39 when my marriage ended, though for 8 years. I had done everything I could to keep it alive. From the outside, Ryan and I looked solid. He worked in logistics. I was a forensic accountant, and we lived in a quiet neighborhood where people waved while dragging trash cans to the curb. On Sundays, Ryan grilled in the backyard while my sister, Chloe, sat on the porch railing and teased him about burning the chicken. My mother-in-law, Diane, brought pies and foil pans and tucked leftovers into our refrigerator as if she still didn't trust us to feed ourselves. There was always laughter in our house. That was what made the silence afterward so hard to understand. Ryan and I started trying for a baby during our second year of marriage. At first, it was hopeful. We painted the spare room a pale cream because we didn't want to jinx anything with blue or pink. Diane knitted a pair of yellow booties and placed them in a small white box. I kept that box on the top shelf of the closet, untouched but never forgotten. Then came the appointments, the sharp smell of disinfectant, the paper gowns that never closed properly, the hum of fluorescent lights while Ryan squeezed my hand and said, "We're in this together." I believed him every time. Over the next few years, I endured hormone shots, procedures, and 3 pregnancies that ended before I could bring myself to buy anything for the nursery. Each loss made the house quieter. I stopped opening the closet where the booties were kept. Chloe became the person I leaned on most. She brought soup after procedures, sat beside me without forcing conversation, and once climbed into bed fully dressed because I couldn't stop shaking. "You're stronger than anyone I know," she whispered. I held on to those words for years. 10 months before the twins were born, Chloe announced she had accepted temporary work in another city. Ryan's travel schedule suddenly became heavier around the same time. I noticed, but I didn't question it. Trust can make ordinary lies look harmless. He came home with hotel soap in his bag and unfamiliar perfume clinging faintly to his coat. Chloe started missing holidays, appearing only through carefully framed video calls. My parents said she was busy. Ryan said work was brutal, and I kept defending both of them. Even Diane sometimes watched Ryan too closely, then looked away before I could ask what she knew. Looking back, the truth had already entered my home. It just hadn't taken off its coat yet. The photo arrived on a Tuesday afternoon while I was sorting clean towels at the dining table. Chloe's name flashed across my screen. I opened the message without thinking. Ryan was sitting in a hospital chair with a newborn in each arm. His hair was messy, his eyes were wet, and his smile was softer than anything I had seen in years. Chloe leaned against his shoulder, pale and exhausted, one hand resting over his. Under the picture, she had written, "They already know their daddy," for a few seconds. I heard nothing, not the dryer turning down the hall, not the traffic outside, not even my own breathing. Then Chloe called. "Morgan," she said, "I didn't mean to send that to you." "Not? It isn't what it looks like." "Not. Let me explain. Just confirmation." I ended the call before she could say anything else. Ryan had told me he was attending a week-long work meeting. That morning, he had texted that the schedule was packed and he might not call until late. I stared at the picture again. 8 years of marriage, years of treatment, 3 losses, and my husband was holding the children he had apparently made with my own sister. I didn't confront him. That surprised even me. Instead, I opened the account we used for household expenses. At first, the payments looked ordinary: utilities, groceries, insurance. Then I found repeated hotel charges in the city where Chloe had moved. The amounts were never huge. A few $100s here, Another few hundred there, small enough to disappear inside a busy life. I checked our shared calendar. One hotel stay matched the week after my second loss, when Ryan told me he needed space because he was struggling too. Another matched a treatment cycle that left me curled on the bathroom floor while he claimed a shipment problem had kept him overnight. My hands started shaking then, not because I was confused, because I finally understood. I kept going. Bills for restaurants, parking payments near Chloe's apartment, airline charges attached to dates Ryan had called business travel on our family tablet. Old photos had synced automatically from a shared account. There was Chloe at a company dinner, standing too close to Ryan. Chloe on a balcony wearing his jacket, Ryan's hand at the small of her back. The affair had lasted almost 3 years. Then I found the worst detail. Chloe's move had not been sudden. Ryan had helped pay for it. The deposit, the moving expenses. Even part of the rent had come from money we had set aside for another round of treatment. I sat in the dark with the screen glowing against my face. They had not simply betrayed me. They had used my hope to finance their secret. That was the moment grief hardened into something cleaner. A plan. The next morning, I called a family lawyer named Rachel Adams. Her office was on the 4th floor of a glass building downtown, quiet except for the soft click of keyboards beyond reception. I expected my voice to break when I explained why I was there. It didn't. Rachel listened while I laid out the photo, the hotel payments, the shared bills, and the dates that matched too perfectly to be accidents. When I finished, she folded her hands. "Do not confront either of them yet," she said, "and only collect what you can legally access." That mattered to me. I didn't want revenge that could be twisted into another accusation. I wanted clean facts. Over the next several days, I built a timeline. I copied statements from the joint account, saved the images already synced to our family tablet, and listed every payment connecting Ryan to Chloe's city. Rachel helped me protect my share of our finances and prepare the divorce filing. I signed the papers on Friday afternoon. That night, I stood in the spare room we had once planned to turn into a nursery. The pale walls looked gray in the fading light. I opened the closet and took down the white box Diane had given us years earlier. Inside were the yellow baby booties. I held them against my palm and finally cried, not for Ryan. I cried for the woman I had been every time I apologized for something she thought her body had taken away. 2 days later, Diane called. Her voice sounded thin and breathless. "Morgan, please don't tell Ryan yet." I gripped the kitchen counter. "Tell him what she went silent." We met the next morning at a small cafe across the city. Diane was already there, both hands wrapped around a cup she hadn't touched. "There's something I should have given him 6 years ago," she said. A copy of Ryan's fertility results had been mailed to her house, his old address. She opened it by mistake. The findings showed a severe male factor issue and recommended further testing. Diane hid the letter. Ryan missed the follow-up appointment, ignored the clinic's calls, then told me his results were normal. "I thought I was protecting him," Diane whispered. "I was protecting myself from watching him feel broken." The words landed slowly. For years, I had been the one who felt broken. I met with the doctor the following day. She could not release Ryan's private records, but she confirmed he had missed the consultation and never completed the recommended follow-up. Diane then handed the original copy to Rachel. That changed the shape of everything. The twins did not prove Ryan was not their father, but the old result raised a question neither he nor Chloe knew existed. Rachel placed the divorce papers into a sealed folder. "When they come back," she said, "you'll already be protected." For the first time since the photo arrived, I was no longer waiting for the next blow. I was ready for it. Ryan brought Chloe and the twins to Diane's house 3 nights later. I wasn't there, but Diane told me every detail afterward, and I could see it as clearly as if I had been standing in the hallway. Ryan walked in first, carrying one baby against his chest. Chloe followed with the other, her face tired but glowing. Ryan smiled at his mother like a man delivering the ending everyone had been waiting for. "Mom," he said, "meet your grandchildren." Diane looked at the babies. Then she went pale. Her hand gripped the back of a chair so hard her knuckles turned white. Ryan's smile slipped. "What's wrong?" Diane looked at Chloe, then back at him. "Wait," she whispered. "She didn't tell you." The room changed. Chloe stopped rocking the baby in her arms. "Tell him what she asked." Diane didn't answer. She walked down the hall, opened the small safe in her study, and returned with the old medical results. Ryan stared at the pages for a long time. "This is mine." Diane nodded. His eyes moved faster, then slower. Then he read the same line again. The results showed that natural conception would have been extremely unlikely without further treatment. Not impossible, but unlikely enough to make the silence in that room unbearable. Ryan looked at the twins, then at Chloe. "Did you know about this, no?" she said too quickly. He turned on Diane. "You let Morgan believe it was her." Diane's face crumpled. "I was afraid for 6 years. I thought I was protecting you." Ryan dropped the papers onto the table. "You protected me by letting my wife blame herself." Chloe shifted toward the door. Ryan noticed. "Where are you going? I need air." "No. You need to tell me why you look terrified." She said nothing. That silence answered more than words could. Ryan requested a legal paternity test the next morning. The results came back several weeks later. He was not the father. Chloe admitted she had reconnected with an old boyfriend during the same months she was seeing Ryan. She said she had been lonely. She said Ryan kept delaying the day he would leave me. She said she had convinced herself the twins had to be his because that was the future she wanted. Ryan learned the truth in layers. First, that his mother had hidden his results. Then, that the woman he destroyed his marriage for had lied to him too. And finally, that the children he had called his own belonged to another man. He came to my house that evening. I saw his car pull into the driveway and stayed where I was. When I opened the door, he looked smaller than I remembered. His shirt was wrinkled, his eyes were red. The confidence that had carried him through every lie was gone. "Morgan," he said, "I need you to hear me." I stepped aside. We sat in the living room where he had once promised we would grow old together. He talked for 20 minutes. He blamed fear. He blamed Diane. He blamed the years of failed treatment. He blamed the pressure of watching me grieve. Then he said the one thing I knew was coming. If Mom had told me, none of this would have happened. I let the words sit between us. "No," I said, "if your mother had told you, one lie would have ended sooner." He looked at me. "But she didn't make you sleep with my sister." His mouth opened. Nothing came out. "She didn't make you use our treatment money to pay Chloe's rent. She didn't make you leave me alone after I lost our babies. She didn't make you look me in the eye and say you were working late." "Morgan, I was hurting too." "You were hurting," I said, "and you decided that gave you permission to hurt me worse." He leaned forward, his voice breaking. "I lost everything." I almost laughed, not because it was funny, because he still thought loss was something that had just happened to him. "You didn't lose everything," I said. "You traded it away." He looked down at his hands. Then, quietly, he asked, "Is there any chance we can fix this?" I stood. "The divorce papers were signed before you ever walked into your mother's house." He looked up sharply. That was the moment he understood. I had not been waiting for him to choose me. I had already chosen myself. The divorce did not end in one dramatic morning. It took 7 months. 7 months of disclosures, meetings, signatures, and rooms where everyone spoke carefully while the life Ryan and I had built was reduced to numbers. Rachel kept me focused, fair. She reminded me, not cruel, so I asked for what I was legally entitled to and nothing more. My share of the house. My portion of the savings. Repayment for the money Ryan had taken from our treatment fund to support Chloe. I did not go after his career. I did not contact his clients. I did not post the hospital photo online, even when anger woke me before dawn and made my hands ache for somewhere to put it. The twins were innocent. That mattered. Ryan tried twice to delay the settlement. First, he claimed he needed more time to review the finances. Then he asked whether mediation could include a conversation about reconciliation. Rachel slid the request across her desk. I read it once and pushed it back. No, by then. Chloe had moved away with the babies. The paternity results forced her to contact Lucas, the man she believed was their biological father. I heard through a family friend that Ryan had not gone with her. The future he had risked everything for disappeared almost overnight. My parents called me after Chloe left. My mother cried. My father said the family needed healing. I stood in the hallway with the phone pressed to my ear and looked at a picture of Chloe and me at a county fair, holding melting ice cream cones. I hope she heals, I said, but I won't be the place she comes to avoid what she did. My mother went quiet. For once. I let the silence belong to someone else. Diane handled the truth differently. She did not ask me to forgive her. She did not explain herself again. She started seeing a counselor and wrote me a 3-page letter without a single excuse. At the end, she wrote, "I loved my son in a way that allowed him to stay careless. You paid for that love, and I am sorry." I kept the letter. I did not answer for several weeks. Then I invited her to lunch. Our relationship never returned to what it had been, but it became something more honest, smaller, careful, real. The final mediation took place on a Thursday morning. Ryan sat across from me in a dark suit that looked too large. He had sold his share of the business and planned to move after the divorce, before the attorneys entered. He looked at me. "You seem different," he said. "I am." "Do you hate me?" I thought about it. "No," I said, "but I don't trust you. And I understand that love without trust is just a room you keep getting hurt in." He lowered his eyes. The settlement was signed before noon when I stepped outside. Cold air hit my face. Traffic rolled past, somewhere nearby. A church bell marked the hour. Nothing exploded. No one applauded. Justice, I learned, can be very quiet. A year later, I helped fund a support program for people going through infertility treatment. We offered counseling, patient rights education, and help understanding medical information before shame could take root. I kept the yellow baby booties, not because I was still waiting, because they no longer represented failure. They reminded me of the woman who survived years of carrying blame that was never hers. When I saw them, I remembered the day I finally put it down. I used to think revenge meant making someone feel the pain they gave you. I was wrong. Real revenge was waking up without fear, without blame, and without waiting for Ryan to become the man he pretended to be. The marriage ended, but so did the version of me that apologized for existing. If you have ever had to protect yourself from someone you loved, tell me what you would have done. Share your story in the comments, and subscribe so you do not miss the next one. Sometimes freedom does not arrive loudly. Sometimes it simply opens the door.